Hello everybody. In this month's video, I will be demonstrating how to flat in Clip Studio Paint. Alright, so for this demonstration, I'll be using this page from Star Wars Adventures Annual 2019 with some line work by Mauricet. Also, a lot of the tools that I'll be using are customized a little bit, and I might talk about some of the settings and what exactly they do, but I'm not really going to go into too much details on how to create the exact tools I'm using. But if you want the exact tools that I'm using, I will be making them available to my patrons at the $5 tier. Alright, so first, I mentioned, so over here I have my layers palette. This is how I usually like to set it up. I just have like a white background. Here I have just a plain layer where I'm going to be laying my flats in. And then I have a layer with the line art. Now, see, I can turn off this like background layer here, and you'll notice that the line art layer is, has black and white pixels. And of course, if you work in Photoshop, you probably already know the trick that if you set to multiply, then colors will show through. That's just, yeah, see. However, undo, okay. In Clip Studio, you can do another thing. I'm going to select the lines channel here. I'm going to go up and look for this little check mark. I have mine set right here. It's the layer properties. You could also go to under view to, I think it's under here somewhere, or maybe window. Yeah, there we go. Window layer properties to make sure you have it up. And right now it's expressing full color. I'm going to put it down to monochrome. Come on. And then I'm just going to hit the black here, which turns off the white. And now you'll notice that only the black lines are showing. And I want to do that because something else I'm going to do is I'm going to take this layer. I'm going to put that back in the history palette, but I'm going to select that layer, and then I'm going to hit this little lighthouse here, which is going to make that a reference layer. Alright, so now I can have tools refer to this layer. I'm going to go back to my flats layer, and I'll start laying in some colors, and I'll show you what that does. And alright, so going to go to the fill bucket. You'll see I have several fills here. Yeah, and all right, this one I've already modified. I haven't changed the name of it, but you see it says refer only to editing layer, which actually, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to duplicate this subtool, and I'm going to change the name, refer refer to lines. Okay, there we go. And alright, so again, a few of the settings like I'm going to show you, which are pretty cool. Well, I have it set to follow adjacent pixels, so it won't select everything that's clear right now. I have close gap, which means that this paint bucket, well, if there's a gap in the lines, it won't bleed through to the other spaces. And right now I have it in the center. If you want to be really sensitive, you can do it there, or you can put it down and then it'll only do like really small gaps, but I like to keep in the center. And area scaling 3 means I'm just going to demonstrate this right now. Let's see, I'm going to pick color. Go back to that. All right. And all right, so it just filled. I'm going to zoom in here. And you can see, actually, I'm going to select the edges so you can see the edges. You can see it goes underneath the line art, which is exactly what you want when you want flatting. And of course, it goes under basically like 3 pixels. You can make it more extreme. But if you make it too extreme, it could come out the other end, and you don't want that. So there's that. And like I said, I have this multiple reference layer, so it's referencing that lighthouse. So that's where. So basically, it's going to adhere to the lines there. And another cool thing with this is, all right, so I fill, and if I just hold and drag it, it will continue filling all the spaces. All right, now you'll notice there's a lot of little pixels here. So there's this paint unfilled areas tool. And I can click that, and I can just go over these pixels, and it fills them. And there's some over here too. So, and again, I mean, this kind of works like that speed up your flat video that I did, but this time you don't actually need to put a color underneath because it can refer to other layers, which is pretty cool. Alright. Oops, I don't want that to be the same color. Let's just pick a light gray. There we go. Actually, I'm going to fill in this gutter. Boom. And so, yeah, you can see what's filled in so far. One thing you do have to watch out for, and I'll show you here with this paint bucket tool, is if I actually hit the line instead of the white spot, it'll fill the blacks, and you don't want that. So undo that. So you got to make sure you start in the white. And you see how that filled in multiple areas more than what I wanted. So let's see what happens if I increase the close the gap. See, now it didn't go there. Still going into the eyes, but I kind of figured it would. Another tool I like to use, and this is a completely custom tool. I don't think there's anything that comes with it. I had to look it up on how to make this, but this is, it's a lasso and fill tool, and I've set several of them so I can automatically or just easily switch to my opacity. But here it's set to 100, and to that lasso, and when I let go, it fills. And here I'm going to go in to the eyeball so you can see that demonstrated even more clearly. See? So I need to grab a larger area. And let's do the eyes. Like that selection there. All right. So those are the 3 main tools I tend to use when working on this, or in Clip Studio Paint. All right, see, because I have it. You see how it was just filling in little parts? Well, now it's doing better. That's because I had it so I had the close the gap so high it was responding to small areas as gaps. So that's why I like to keep it a little bit more moderate. And for speed purposes, I'm not going to fill in a lot of those little pixels as much as I normally would. I'm going to try to flat basically this whole page in this video. Right. Right, that panel is done. Alright, since this is kind of open, I'm just going to do this selection by hand using this lasso and fill tool. And actually the reason why I started using Clip Studio Paint was because I learned about these flatting tools. And I wanted to give them a try, and then of course they released a full version of this on iPad. And so I taught myself how to completely color with this, and I've been using it quite a bit lately. Alright, so another thing I like to do is select all, and then let's see, was it? It's control. Is it control and command? No. It's got to be option command. Yeah, there we go. Option command to deselect the things I already have on there, because since I have that expanding thing, the area scaling, where it expands when I fill with the paint bucket, what it'll do on something where it's open like this, it'll push into that a few pixels, and I want to keep that the way it is. So sometimes I like to just, make a selection of the stuff that I have not filled in yet. Oops. Okay, and you can see since this is so wide open, that's definitely going to fill in even if I put in maximum tolerance on the close the gap. So I'm going to select the G Pen tool. I'm going to put it to the anti-alias to the lowest setting, so there's no intermediate pixels, and I am going to create a line there, so now it'll close the gap on its own. And actually, I'll just go ahead and do the same thing there just to be safe. I think that's good. There we go. Let's see. Oh, and another thing is, with the palette you can switch from foreground to background color, much like in Photoshop by hitting X. But if you hit C, you get this transparent color, and when you paint with that, of course, it erases. So that's kind of a nice little feature, I think. And let's try using this paint unfilled areas and all this hatching here. See how well that works. There it goes. Start off with it over here. Oh. And if you've never used Clip Studio Paint, I found for me, I mean, there was a little bit of a learning curve, but since I was so familiar with Photoshop, it wasn't, it wasn't as difficult to learn in here. Like I said, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but I think if you're pretty well versed in Photoshop, just practicing with this for a little while, and you can get pretty proficient in it pretty quickly. It's not that difficult. There's other art programs where I try to learn it and, just on my own, and, I can't do it at all. But this one, I was able to pretty much just play around with it and teach myself. And I have been thinking about doing like a full course on just coloring in Clip Studio, which I might do at some point in the future, since it is a bit involved. I think that could be something that people might enjoy. All right, let's. And I should mention, just in case, I mentioned a keyboard shortcut, and it's not actually the default. Oops. Well, that's not good. Hold on. Okay, it works. Oh, that's why I was doing that. But anyways, yeah, in case I mention a keyboard shortcut that's not actually the default, one of the things I did when I first started working with this is a lot of the um, keyboard shortcuts um, are the same as they are in Photoshop, and a lot of them are completely different. So I went through and I modified mine to be a bit closer to what it is in Photoshop. Um, oops. Just so I wouldn't get confused. Oh, that's interesting. Why? I don't know how I did this here, but I'm going to fix it. when I'm using this tool, the lasso and fill tool, I like a lot of times, especially when it's like a really complicated shape like this, I don't know, impact, whatever you would call this here. Um, instead of trying to do the entire shape at once, I like to break it up, because if you find yourself, you know, where you have forced your hand into an awkward position and you let go at the wrong spot, then you kind of have to start over. So, break it up into little manageable bits. Also sometimes, like, this is kind of a straight line here, so sometimes I'll start at one end of that thin straight line and then go and trace these curved lines, and then go down and on this side let go, and it connects it there. Just makes it a little bit easier than tracing the whole shape in those situations. Actually, might select a slightly lighter color for that bit. Probably can use some reference line there. I'm going to have to use this for here. Almost had that. Oops. Oops. Yeah, but you can see how I alternate through a lot of these same couple of tools just to try to lay in the colors as quickly as possible. Oops, dang it. Alright, so to have the basic colors put in here, and what you could do next is like zoom in and go through and try and fill in all these stray pixels that didn't get filled. But of course that can be a little bit tedious, especially if you have a lot of little gaps. Also, one of the other drawbacks I personally find of this is you'll notice there's a lot of still space underneath the lines that didn't get filled. And I mean, this is serviceable this way, but I like having color being all the way behind my blacks. So there is a little trick that I do, though this trick does require going back into Photoshop, but I will demonstrate that here, and this ties in actually with my last video. If you've seen it, you'll be able to figure that out. If you haven't seen it, go back and check it out after you finish watching this one. But what I like to do here is, first of all, I'll save my progress. Do that first. Okay, and then I like to create another layer, reset my swatches to black and white, and I select all, and I deselect my flat layer. So now the only things that are selected is the little spaces behind the lines, as well as all those stray pixels that didn't get filled. And I'm going to fill that with black. And then I'm going to select all these layers, hit Command E, and merge it into one. And I'll save that. And actually, if you're going to do this trick, you don't actually have to have the area scaling there because this kind of takes away from that. But anyways, so all right, I'm going to go and I'll open up the file in Photoshop. Just going to go ahead and flatten the image. And as I mentioned in that last video, I have these Peltmade add-on filters, and I am going to select the Flatten Pro. And it'll take a moment. And there we go. Now, all those spaces are filled in. Something still strange happened with this, but there. So now, even though it's kind of some weird stretching thing, but now all your colors will meet underneath the blacks, and all those little tiny pixels that you missed will be filled in with color now. So I'll just go ahead and save that. And yeah, so now we're done. The page is flat. So that's my demonstration on flattening with Clip Studio Paint, and then also this little extra bonus trick on quickly fixing your flats in Photoshop using the Peltmade add-on. And I hope some people found this interesting, and maybe it'll inspire you to do some flats in Clip Studio Paint. If you like my videos, please subscribe to the channel. And and I'll have another video in about a month's time. And if you don't want to wait, I give early access to all my videos to all my patrons on Patreon. So if you want to go support me there, for as little as $1 each month, you'll be able to have access to my video tutorials or my Learn to Color videos before the general public. So that's all for now, and I'll see you guys in a month.